Hello, here we are continuing our notes on equivalent ratios 1-1. This is day 2. We left off around example number 6. I would like you guys to just go ahead and give example number 7 a try. Pause the video, come back, and it will be all set. Okay, so I said looking at how much minute supplies I'm going to need for the kitten and the cat. The kitten had 42 treats and the cat had 56. So I knew that was the ratio that I could start with. Then if everything was equivalent, I could set up proportions. I set up 42/56 equals x divided by 8. I saw that both of the 42 and 56 are divisible by 7, so I could then figure out x that way. You can use cross multiplication as well, but you can also, if you notice how to find the relationship, you can solve that. For the second one, I'm showing you that I did use cross multiplication to solve. I set up my proportion of 6/8 equals 126x. Then I use cross multiplication by multiplying 6 times x and 8 times 126 to get 1008. Divide both sides by 6 to get 168 cans of adult cat food. Okay? Moving on to the next key concept of conversion factors. This says that you can often write measurements in more than one way. For example, 60 minutes equals an hour, or 60 minutes, or 1 hour, equals 60 minutes. You can express the relationship between the two equivalent measurements as a rate, and the rate equals 1, and it's called a conversion factor. Now it says rate, not ratio, so we want to be clear with that. When we have a word rate, you do need units. So when you have a ratio, you don't need units. And when I mean by units, I mean labels, feet, inches, hours, minutes. So they're just showing us that we can have either one here. Again, down at the bottom, be careful here. These are conversion factors and have units. Example number 8 is asking us to write a conversion factor to compare each of the following. How would we be able to go from inches to feet? You have two ways. You could go from 12 inches to 1 foot, or you could write it as 1 foot to 12 inches. Ounces to pounds. Oh, sorry, these two are flip-flopped on yours. So ounces to pounds, this is actually C on yours, and this is B on yours. So this would be 16 ounces to 1 pound, or 1 pound to 16 ounces. Now be careful here. It's hard to tell the difference between my 1 and the LB, so make sure you know the difference between those two. Days and weeks, there are 7 days in 1 week, or 1 week is 7 days. A lot of these conversion factors will be found on your reference sheet, so that will definitely need to be a sheet that we need handy for our next couple of examples here. For example number 9, they're asking us to use a conversion factor to convert the following. So again, we want to have our reference sheet here. You are going to need this for your homework too. You might not know some of them. We're asking to go from 16 yards to feet. So I set this up by saying 16 yards. You always multiply when you convert. If you just always think about multiplying, it makes this easier. So I'm going to multiply. I want to be able to cancel out my units. Just like I can cross-cancel numbers, I can cross-cancel units. So I'm thinking that there are 3 feet in a yard. I know that conversion factor. But now I have to decide where I want to put the 3 feet. Is it going to go into the numerator, or is it going to go in the denominator? The 3 feet is going to go in the numerator because I want to put the 1 yard in the denominator, because that allows me to cross-cancel my units, and then I can now convert to feet. And so all that's left is to do 16 times 3, which leaves me with 48 feet. For 1,500 gallons to quarts, Again, I start with what it is that I'm converting. I write that down with a label. Don't forget that label, it's super important. We are always multiplying. I look on my reference sheet and it tells me that there are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. Since I want to cross cancel my units, I know I want to put 1 gallon in the denominator, and the new units will go in the numerator. New units, numerator. So the new units, again, we're going to quarts, and there's 4 quarts in a gallon. I can cross cancel my units. Again, all that's left is to multiply. So I have 1,500 times 4 to give me 6,000 quarts. Flipping the page, we're going to go ahead and do C together because this one's a little bit trickier than the previous ones. I'm going from feet to kilometers. And if you look at your reference sheet, there is not a way to go from directly to feet to kilometers. They don't tell us how many feet are in a kilometer. So we have to think about the path that we're going to take. What are we going to be multiplying by to go from feet to kilometers? So looking at my reference sheet, I notice that I can go from feet to miles, and then miles to kilometers. So you start with your original amount again, which is 6,000 feet. Labels here are extremely important. I can't stress that enough again. We are always multiplying, so we don't have to get that confused. I am first going to be converting feet to miles. On my reference sheet, it tells me that there's 5,280 feet in miles. So my old unit is going to go on the bottom in the denominator. My new unit will go in the numerator. So that's the 1 mile up on the top. Again, I'm going from miles down to kilometers, so I just set up another conversion factor. I can have 3 fractions being multiplied by each other at once. Again, the final thing, the new unit that I'm looking for is kilometers, so that's going to go in my numerator. Again, I'm looking at my reference sheet. It says that in 1 kilometer, there are 62 hundredths of a mile. And then this is where the fun part begins, because now I can start to cross-cancel things and get rid of things I don't need. I can cross-cancel the units for feet, and I can cross-cancel the units for miles. Then I multiply straight across. So I'm going to multiply the 6,000 times 1 times 1, which leaves me with 6,000, and the only unit that's left is kilometers, so it's 6,000 kilometers. Then in the denominator, I'm going to multiply the 5,280 and the 62 hundredths. You are allowed to use a calculator, so go ahead and calculate that out. And we get 3,273 and 6/10. Notice there is no label because I'm going to now simplify 6,000 divided by 3,273 and 6/10, and I'll throw on the kilometers at the end. So my final answer is 1 and 83 kilometers. Circle our absolute final answer there. I'd like you to go ahead and try to give D a try. Again, look at your reference sheet. How do we go from feet to centimeters? Try this one on your own. When you come back, that it'll be all ready to go. Okay? This one wasn't so bad because it was just multiplying straight across, but I was going from feet, then to inches, then to centimeters. So I start with my original, 3 feet, multiply it by the conversion factor of 12 inches, 1 foot, and put the new unit in the numerator. Then I'm going from inches to centimeters. So again, new unit in the numerator, 2 and 54 hundredths centimeters. I cross-cancel all my units. I see that all I have to do is multiply straight across. I get my final answer of 91 and 44 hundredths centimeters. Example number 10 is a reading question. So let's make sure we read this for understanding. It says, you make a banner 6 feet long to hang behind the desk at the animal shelter. Your friend makes a banner 6 yards long to hang on the outside of the building. Write the ratio of the length of your banner to the length of your friend's banner as a fraction in simplest form. A lot of information here. First of all, my final answer needs to be a fraction in simplest form. They're asking for us to be writing a ratio. Again, a ratio ends up not having any units, so we don't want any units in our final answer. We see that vocabulary. Our banner is 6 feet, and our friend's banner is 6 yards. I can't put 6 feet, I'm writing this down, you'll want to erase this. 6 feet, I can't write 6 feet and 6 yards and cancel out the units. They're not the same unit. The only way that I'd be able to cancel out the units is if I had feet and feet right on top of each other, like that, or if I had feet in the denominator. That's the only way that I can cancel units. Canceling units is very similar to canceling numbers. So because I don't have the same units, I have to convert first. I'm going to start with my banner, which is 6 feet, and I'm going to convert it to yards. I put the new unit in the numerator, so there is 1 yard and 3 feet. Again, this is on, this one might not be on your reference sheet now that I think about it. I cancel out my units. I multiply. I'm left with 6 yards divided by 3. 6 yards divided by 3 leaves me with 2 yards. And again, that is our banner. So I like to just cross the 6 feet out and write the 2 yards back in that place so I know this is our banner. They want us to write a ratio. There are 3 different ways to write a ratio, either as a fraction with a colon or the word 2, but they are specifying that they would like it as a fraction in simplest form. They're asking us to compare the length of your banner, so which is our banner really, to the length of your friend's banner. So we're looking at our banner to our friends. I like to label things so I make sure that I put it in the right order. Our banner is now 2 yards. Our friend's banner is now 6 yards. I can cancel out my units, and I can reduce 2 6 in lowest terms, simplest form, all those different words, to 1/3, and that's our final answer. Got to digest that. Again, the answer said it wanted it to be a ratio, which is telling me that I don't want any units in my final answer. Go ahead, try number 11. Pause the video, and I will have the answer there for you. Okay? They gave us 2 different weights here, 1 in ounces, 1 in pounds. So I have to either convert the ounces to pounds or the pounds to ounces. The reason I chose to go from pounds to ounces was that 12 ounces does not equal a whole pound. It equals a portion of a pound. I believe it equals 3/4 of a pound. And since it does not equal a whole number of when I convert it, I'm going to end up getting some sort of weird decimal. So some of you might have started by converting the 12 ounces to pounds, and then your work might have been a little bit more complicated. So even though I end up dealing with 48 ounces, which is a larger number, this works out better for me. So I started with the 3 pounds, converting it to ounces, putting the new unit in the numerator. I get 48 ounces. They're asking me to compare the kitten to the puppy. So I put 12 ounces divided by 48 ounces. I can cross-cancel the units, and I get 1/4. That's it for our notes. We're going to go ahead and now work on the practice 1-1. Thank you for watching.